All right, buckle up, everybody, because today we're diving deep into the world of
Right.
cybersecurity, specifically
That's excited.
U.S. strategy in a post-Ukraine war era.
It's a hot topic for sure.
It really is. And to help us navigate this complex landscape, we've got Mohamed Amer's book, Defending the Future.
Great choice.
Now, if that name doesn't ring a bell, let me just say, this guy's the real deal.
Oh, yeah.
Former UCUCOM officer, top expert in cyber defense.
You don't get much more in the trenches than that, you know.
Seriously.
Yeah.
So he knows what he's talking about, and what I really appreciate is that defending the future isn't just some theoretical, ivory tower analysis.
Oh,
It gets down to brass tacks, offering guidance on how the U.S. Department of Defense and State Department are tackling this whole cyberspace security cooperation thing.
and it's practical too, right? Like you can
Yeah.
see how this applies whether you're a policy wonk
Totally.
or just starting out of the field.
Yeah.
It's a great primer for anyone who wants to get up to speed on this stuff.
It's a roadmap, that's for sure. But before we get into solutions, Amer doesn't sugarcoat the current situation.
No, he doesn't.
Defending the future paints a pretty stark picture of what's happening out there in cyberspace, right?
Absolutely.
This is a new battleground
Yeah.
where the lines are blurred,
It's a whole new world.
the stakes are high.
Higher than ever.
Remember that line from the book trailer?
I do, yeah.
In a world shaped by conflict and technology, where boundaries blur and power lies in the hands of the digitally adept.
Gave me chills.
It's like something out of a sci-fi thriller, but it's our reality.
It's here, yeah.
And Amer's big argument is that the U.S. can't just go it alone anymore in this digital age.
Makes sense.
We need alliances,
Oh, definitely.
strong ones to tackle these cyber threats.
You can't build walls in cyberspace.
You can't.
It's all interconnected.
Exactly. And that's where these three major challenges come in that Amer really lays out.
Okay, yeah.
Starting with securing electoral infrastructure.
That's huge, right?
It's the foundation of our democracy.
Exactly.
And if that's vulnerable to attack, what does that say?
You lose faith in the whole system.
And that leads right into the next challenge, maintaining public confidence.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
Every time there's a major cyber attack, whether it's on a government agency,
Or a company?
a company, people lose trust.
Absolutely.
They start to wonder, well, who's keeping us safe?
Yeah, can anyone be trusted?
Can we trust anything? And then there's the big one, protecting critical infrastructure.
Yeah.
Power grids, hospitals.
The things that keep society running.
Exactly. I mean, think back to that Colonial Pipeline attack.
Ooh, yeah.
It brought things to a standstill.
It was a wake-up call for a lot of people, I think.
It really was. And Amer argues that these attacks are only going to get more sophisticated.
More frequent, too, probably.
Oh, yeah. So what can we actually do? This is where I think defending the future really shines. Amer doesn't just point out the problems. He actually offers some solutions.
Yeah.
And one of the key ideas he puts forward is what he calls institutional capacity building, or ICB.
Okay, now that sounds a little jargony.
Yeah, it's a bit of a mouthful.
But what does it mean in plain English?
Basically, it's about empowering other countries to defend themselves in cyberspace.
Oh, interesting.
It's like the old saying, give a man a fish, he eats for a day. Teach a man to fish, he eats for a lifetime.
Yeah, I get it.
But in this case, it's cybersecurity.
So instead of the U.S. always having to come to the rescue,
Yeah,
we're helping other countries build up their own defenses.
exactly. We're creating a safer, more stable online world for everyone.
Makes sense.
It's in our best interest to have strong partners out there.
Absolutely.
And that's where Amer brings up another interesting concept, integrated deterrence.
Okay, break that down for me.
So, traditional deterrence was all about military might.
Yeah, nukes, big armies, that kind of thing.
Right. That was enough to make your enemies think twice.
But in cyberspace, it's a whole different ballgame, isn't it?
It is. It's much harder to pinpoint attackers.
They could be anywhere.
They could be anywhere. One day it's a state-sponsored group, the next it's a criminal organization.
It's a lot harder to deter someone when you don't know who they are
It is.
or where they are.
Exactly. So integrated deterrence recognizes this fluid nature of cyber threats.
Right.
It's about using all the tools we have,
Not just the military.
not just the military, diplomacy,
Uh-huh.
economic sanctions, law enforcement, even military capabilities when necessary,
To send a clear message.
to send a clear message that malicious activity will have consequences.
Got it.
It's about creating a more predictable, more stable environment in cyberspace.
Right, because the Wild West approach isn't working.
Not at all.
We need some rules of the road.
We do, and that's a big part of what defending the future is all about.
So how do we actually create those rules?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
It is.
And that's what we're going to dive into next. So it's not just about reacting to attacks, but trying to, shape the landscape before things escalate.
Right, exactly.
And that's where Amer's third solution comes in. These collaborative cybersecurity programs.
Okay, so we're talking about working with other countries.
Yeah.
But what does that actually look like?
Well, I mean, it involves sharing information, coming up with joint strategies, basically presenting a united front against cyber threats.
Kind of like like a neighborhood watch,
Yeah,
but for cyberspace.
exactly. A global neighborhood watch.
And who are the key players in this global watch? Is it just governments?
Well, Amer says it's not just governments.
Okay.
The private sector plays a huge role.
Makes sense. They control a lot of the critical infrastructure.
They do.
And what about academia?
Academia, too.
Oh.
They're doing the research, training the next generation of cybersecurity experts.
So it's a pretty broad effort then.
It is. It goes way beyond just traditional government-to-government cooperation.
And Amer even goes a step further.
Oh, does he?
He says that individual citizens have a role to play, too.
Now, that's interesting.
Yeah.
What can everyday people do?
Well, he emphasizes that individual actions, even though they might seem small,
Yeah.
collectively, they can make a big difference.
Like what? Give me an example.
Well, think about it.
Okay.
Every time you use a strong password,
Uh-huh.
you're making it just a little bit harder for hackers
Okay.
to access your data.
So something as simple as good password hygiene
Right.
actually contributes to the bigger picture.
It does.
Interesting.
It's about being more aware, being more cautious about what you share online, keeping your software up to date.
It's creating a culture of cybersecurity, right?
Exactly.
So Amer is advocating for a shift in mindset then.
Yeah.
It's not just the responsibility of governments and tech companies.
It's all of us.
It's everyone's problem.
Right.
It's a powerful message.
It is.
Especially when you think about how sophisticated these cyber threats are becoming.
They're getting really good.
They are. It's scary. And Amer doesn't shy away from the fact that there are no easy answers, right?
No, he doesn't.
Cyberspace is constantly evolving.
Mm-hmm.
We have to be adaptable. We have to be innovative.
He spends a good chunk of the book talking about international law,
Yeah.
how the existing frameworks apply to cyberspace, and what new norms or agreements might be needed.
Because right now, it kind of feels like the Wild West out there.
It does, a little bit law.
It does. And just like in the Wild West, we need some rules of the road.
to prevent chaos.
Exactly. Amer argues that we need to find a balance
Okay.
between national security and individual freedoms.
Right. That's the tricky part.
It is. It's a tightrope walk.
It is.
But that's what makes defending the future so valuable.
It does, yeah.
It doesn't offer these simplistic solutions.
No.
It really grapples with the nuances
Mm.
and encourages us to think critically.
It's a good framework for thinking about these issues.
It is. And ultimately, Amer calls on the U.S. to take the lead, to shape this global cyber landscape.
Which makes sense given his background
It
as
does.
a UCUCOM officer.
Yeah, he knows the importance of building coalitions,
Yeah.
of working through international organizations to achieve these shared goals.
And he doesn't just focus on the big players.
No, he doesn't.
He talks about public-private partnerships,
Yeah,
recognizing that everyone has a stake in this.
we all do.
It's a collaborative effort.
It really is.
It's not just a technical issue.
No,
It's a human issue.
it affects all of us.
And once we understand that,
Yeah,
I think we can start to develop more effective strategies.
for sure, for sure. Yeah, it really drives home that what happens online doesn't stay online.
Right, it's all connected.
Like we're all part of this, this digital ecosystem.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
And just like in nature, we need to be mindful of the balance, right? Our actions have consequences.
And in this case, the consequences can be pretty huge.
They can be. But Amer doesn't just leave us hanging with these problems.
Wow.
He offers some real actionable steps that the U.S. can take
Yeah.
to create a more secure cyber future.
To take the lead.
To take the lead, exactly.
What did you find most interesting about his recommendations?
Well, one thing that stuck with me was this idea of anticipating future threats.
Oh, yeah.
Not just reacting to what's happening now,
Right.
but trying to stay ahead of the curve.
Like thinking like the bad guys.
Kind of. He talks about constantly analyzing the evolving tactics
Huh.
and developing proactive strategies.
It's like a game of chess almost.
It is, but with much higher stakes.
A lot more on the line, that's for sure.
Yeah. And a big part of that is, figuring out the whole international law piece.
Which is a real challenge.
It is. I mean, how do you create laws for a space that's constantly changing,
Right.
where the lines between physical and digital are so blurred.
Yeah, how do you even define cybercrime sometimes?
Exactly.
It's a moving target.
Amer says it's about finding that balance
Okay.
between national security and individual rights.
Free speech, privacy, all that.
Right, yeah. It's tough, but it's crucial.
It is.
If we want to have a stable and secure online world,
Yeah, I mean, defending the future really gets you thinking about all these different angles.
it doesn't shy away from the hard questions.
No, it does.
And it really gives us a roadmap for the future.
A starting point for the conversation, at least.
It is, it is. And it reminds us that we all have a part to play.
Absolutely.
Whether it's, being smart about our online choices or
Yeah.
pushing for stronger policies.
Making our voices heard.
Yeah. So before we wrap up this deep dive,
Yep.
I want to turn the tables a bit.
Great.
Defending the future focuses a lot on government and policy.
Yeah.
But what about everyday people?
Mm-hmm.
What can we do to make a difference?
Well, I think education is key.
Okay.
The more we understand about these threats,
Yeah.
the better prepared we'll be to protect ourselves.
To make smart choices.
Exactly.
So books like this, resources like this,
Yeah,
they're really valuable.
they are. And beyond individual actions, there's collective action, too.
Right.
Supporting organizations that are pushing for stronger cybersecurity,
Uh-huh.
holding our elected officials accountable.
Yeah, making sure they're taking this seriously.
Exactly. It's about using our voices, our votes.
It's empowering to know that we're not just helpless, right?
Oh, absolutely.
We can do something.
We
We can shape this digital future.
It's not set in stone.
It's not. So, to everyone listening, if this deep dive piqued your interest, check out Defending the Future.
Yeah, it's a great read.
You can find it on the book's website.
And follow Mohamed Amer on social media.
Yeah, he's got some great insights.
He does.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Thanks for having me.
Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay safe online.